Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's really, really great to see y'all. I'm sure we'll have some folks filtering in as we go, but also, this will be recorded and we'll do what we can to pull out needed information for folks who maybe can't make it. Um, for those of you who may not know, I am Juniper. I am here with Jorge. Today we are going to be talking about all things Bit Heroes Quest. This is going to be an AMA format, which means folks who have questions, you are welcome to go ahead and drop them in chat. And Jorge will basically, I'll be reading the questions out, and then Jorge will be doing his best to answer them. And we'll try to get through as many of them as we can in about an hour. I think that's about where we're gonna cut it off. I do have one request, of course. Two things. First up, server rules still apply. I know there's a lot of big opinions in the community right now, and that is totally okay. Please make sure that questions, comments, and stuff like that are just in line with server rules. That's all we're asking for. And then yeah, so basically, please please be aware of those. So if folks who are saying they can barely hear me, make sure the channel volume is turned up. But yes, please be respectful. That's mostly we want to have meaningful conversations with everybody. But of course, we can't really do that if, we're not being super respectful. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll go ahead and I'll just start reading questions out. You ready, Jorge?
Yeah, let's do this. Before we start, though, there were more people that wanted to be here today, but it's Friday end of day, and they had some life commitments. So Paul and Arky couldn't make it, but they would normally be here.
All right. On that note, let's go ahead and kick things off. So the first question from Sean is going to be, what is the action plan to ensure that missed items in change logs and severe changes in gameplay without prior warning don't happen again in the future?
So that to me seems like two questions, right? In terms of gameplay changes, we're definitely going to be trying to announce those a little bit more ahead of time and also maybe share them with closer circles before they roll out, just so we can get some feedback ahead of time instead of things rushed. It feels like over the last month, like we've rushed many things, and maybe we were too quick to make some decisions there. In terms of missed items in change logs, no, the team's working on this, and I'm assuming this is particularly around rewards from events. If that's not the case, please let me know. But if that is, I know the team is actively working to try to get those back into players as soon as possible, and I believe they had already delivered half of that, if I'm not mistaken.
So, all right, cool. Sorry, Jorge, I was reading chat. Did you ask me a question or were you wrapping up your comments there?
I wrapped it up.
Ah, perfect. Okay, cool. I see one here from Rev, which is what are the reparations for people who have bought NFTs strictly for gem farming?
It's a good question. We're exploring what the options are. Some we've got some suggestions, and I'm not saying this is what we're gonna do. But we're exploring things like this, like maybe offering some sort of refunding creds or gems, right? So players could basically, get still like some value in terms of gems out of their purchase, and then could take that NFT over in and put it somewhere else. So again, I'm not saying this is gonna happen 100%. It might have to go on a case by case basis. We'll see. Like we're exploring options.
Awesome. And then I see another question from Ducky here with a lot of upvotes rolling in. Can we utilize the roundtable more? in a way to support the community. Perhaps have them review things before we announce them or move ahead with plans.
And that's like in an ideal world, that's what we would obviously like to do. Yes.
Alrighty, and there might be some follow-ups to that one, but no worries, Ducky, or folks, if you do have follow-ups to questions, feel free to just drop them in there. And the next one is going to be from Sean. There are no new events save for Invasion, and more content would ultimately draw in more players and more money. Are there any new events or content to refresh gameplay in the near future?
Mm, so we're trying to have like there's content can be understood in a different, you know, like variety of avenues here. So for example, we have game modes, right? Then we have seasonal events, and then we have like cosmetics that just drop around certain key calendar dates, right? Besides Mobileversary, besides like all the big kind of celebration events that we also have running um, from time to time. So in that regard, I think seasonal events were something new that we kickstarted last year, and we plan to keep doing more of in the future, particularly because we feel like it's an interesting way to deliver content for players, right? And keep people engaged. If that's not the case, let us know. But with looking at the data, it seems like um, you guys are enjoying them and engaging with them. As for game modes, definitely a pass is due. Like a lot of these game modes are a little bit old in terms of mechanically how they work and user interface perspective. Like there's so much things we want to do with the game. Problem always is time and resources. And to be very clear for everyone, because I know there's a lot of frustration that has been building up over the first kind of half of the year. We're dealing with a big problem today particularly on Android devices. We have memory leak problems that are leading to high crash rates. Um, some of you may not know this, but basically, Google gives you more or less visibility based on what's your app behavior and also ratings, right? And crash rates, kind of crash ratings, like they bring those down, and the game's suffering because of this. And so this is like it's been a big priority for the team to fix it over the past 3 to 4 months, because it's only going to get worse. And that if we don't fix that, it would mean like a lot of trouble for the game. So this is the reason why you know you haven't seen many new features. You haven't seen some of the commitments that we made to NFTs, NFT perks. We're trying to fix this as soon as possible without affecting the content cadence, which also requires some engineers, right? Like whenever we create new zones, new items, like there's always an engineer involved. So we only have 4 of those guys, and basically they're like half split between content and um, and features. And the guys working on features are basically focusing on trying to fix stability. So again, sure, we want to have new game modes, we want to have new features, we want to do many things, but right now it's on hold until we can fix this issue. And unfortunately, even though we know what's the problem, we know it's memory leak problems, we haven't like the team hasn't really figured like how to fix that yet.
Yeah, loading issues are definitely, it's a complicated one. But I do think an important call out in that answer was the size of the development team. I think sometimes folks uh, believe that we are a super huge team with hundreds and hundreds of employees, and that's not true. We're a little bit smaller of a group. So thank you for the clarity on that, though. That's appreciated. Moving on to our next question. Um, Question, are there plans to go over what the econ team sees as valuable in the shop? What what shows up in the shop seems disconnected from what people say who play the games are see as valuable. For example, um, the one provided here is the legendary augment currently being sold for $20.
Mhm. So yeah, I was having a conversation with Archie earlier today about those things. We definitely have, like, the economy has certain valuations for items, and then we typically use that as a starting point, and then we make discounts based on that, right? And that takes into account difficulty factors, drop rates, shop prices, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, part of what we're trying to do sometimes is we experiment with these offers, right? And I think Orchi was trying to go for something different than new there. It's been noted that it hasn't been well received. We're gonna be exploring like what other things we could do there besides selling resources and boosts, right? Which is kind of like the always the thing that we always do, and we want to maybe try to move away from that, do different things. If you guys have any feedback or suggestions there, for sure, maybe we can collect those on a document somewhere. Juniper or run a poll at some point.
Absolutely. That is definitely something that we can do. And then I see a question here from Roasty. Will there be effort to start to understand how the game works? A lot of mistakes, such as the gold coin for 15,000 common coins, could have been avoided easily by understanding basic gameplay. Feels like a lot of mistakes could have been avoided by a simple question to the community.
Definitely, yes. Definitely also, the link to tapping into roundtable members, right? And also, we've gotten some suggestions to maybe also have some sort of channel for guild leaders and some other people who've been around for long and are seen as leaders in the community. So those things definitely on the table. To give more context into that and without serving it as an excuse, um, the time when the gold coin problem happened was when we basically Lautaro was leaving the project, right? The old game designer, and Nico, the new one, was jumping over, right? And I think it was kind of one of his first big things. And no one, this is the game that you require. Like, you have to play it for so much, for so long to really understand everything, right? And even though, like, you still miss something. So people make mistakes. I appreciate everyone's willingness to be open to these things, and definitely we'll tap more into you before we roll some of these changes. Sometimes they go unnoticed, right? I know in the past there's also been instances where things were shared and they got out public, and there was also something that we had to fix quickly. So nothing's bulletproof, but we can always do better.
All right, and then our next question is going to be from Ducky. Since D4 gems and now T2 gems have been nerfed, can you do things to help new players and free-to-play players afford getting accessories and pets, like perhaps add more gems to the first several flags?
Interestingly, we have dedicated a lot of time to looking into the D4 perceived nerf. We haven't seen anything there that has changed. We have QA'd it. We have looked at change logs from the past. Like, nothing has altered that. So we're definitely still exploring it. It might be a perception, and I know this might be like a little bit touchy. So just want to make sure that everyone here understands. We're looking into it. In theory, that hasn't changed, but we'll keep digging to discover more. And if you have any kind of proof or data there that you can share with us, it's always welcome. It's just so we can look into it. But again, according to ours, nothing has changed much there. In terms of tier 2 camping, um, I know it's not what people want to hear, but we originally intended to have those GMs to help people kind of get through the early stages of the games, right? And never stop at tier 2. Like, the idea was we progress to tier 3, then tier 4, so on and so forth, right? And not get stuck there. So in a way, that was not intended by design, to kind of foster a camping behavior there. Originally, then things change, and then you don't want to make them change because you know how people might react, what the community is getting used, et cetera, et cetera. But at some point, it was something that we had to change, right? And again, we can discuss whether it was the right way to do it or we could have found a different way, but that's a different conversation. How can we give more gems to free-to-play players, which I understand it's like the core question behind this. We're exploring options as well. Somebody mentioned a battle pass. Battle pass is on the table, but I want to make sure I repeat the same as before not until we fix like these stability problems. Until that happens, we won't actually work on anything new. We have the seasonal events as well, right? We can explore maybe adding gem rewards into some of the boxes. That could be an option. Again, if you have ideas, feel free to share.
Awesome. And for folks in chat, there is, because we're going to be doing this only for an hour today, there is no way we're going to be able to get to every single person's question. So the best way would be to react to the questions you see in chat with an emoji that you would like to see answered. And I'm basically going down and picking the ones that have the most votes on them. To that point, the next one up is the D5 issue. More difficult content to keep end players playing. Has there been any effort into making these near impossible dungeons a reality? Rewards can simply be a cosmetic, and then a call
Mm.
out to our art department being OP. This could also help player retention between content.
So we are aware of the challenges there in terms of like how quickly some of the most experienced and longest players kind of go through it. We're exploring ways to keep players around for longer every time we release new content. That involves everything from ideas about difficulty, right, and how to reward players for beating that difficulty, to also exploring like maybe some sort of different crafting materials that we could add to some of the upgrades required, or like even just like making the whole thing a little bit more difficult, right? So some paths to be explored there. We definitely want to change things for the next zone. And since that is mostly config based, we should be able to deliver. So silver lining that, yes, we will try to make sure that next zone comes with more things to do, longer time to get through it. And yeah, can disclose much more in terms of like how will that work. But we're exploring it, and we will reward players accordingly for the extra time. Probably in the form of cosmetics, by the way, just to be clear.
We all love cosmetics. All right, with the white paper being all but a stack of some empty promises at the moment, what perks do you see Congregate actually getting out in a timely manner? And then parentheses, pets, mounts, etc. Almost a year since
Mhm.
the white paper was updated, and this is just as concerning for a part of the community.
That is, that is perfectly logical. And we have a white paper update ready since like 3 or 4 weeks ago. But again, hopefully when you look at things through the context and the lens that I just gave you in terms of like how our priorities kind of shifted around, the first quarter of this year to try to fix that stability issue, maybe things make more sense now, right? Because before that, if you think about it, we had the drop in September, and I think it was before of the year that you could start to actually use the NFTs. Then, Q1 it's when we delivered Permagore and staking, right, between Q1 and early Q2. And in that regard, like we're slower than we wanted, but we keep building on those perks. And obviously, we're gonna deliver probably a new list sometime soon that it's a little bit more reduced and that it's gonna just focus on the things that we could potentially do within the next 12 months, right? Because of course, also if you look at the time when we were doing some of the M&As originally, right? We talked about this being like a 3-year kind of outlook for these things, right? For the Bitverse to kind of develop itself, and things change along the way, priorities change. Like very difficult to get to stick to just like a letter of intention. But definitely, you're completely right. We need to take a pass at it. We need to give you more information in terms of what's coming up and when is it going to come as much and as best as we can. Right? Again, priorities come. Like sometimes you get a fire in your house that you need to tend to before you actually focus on making it prettier or better, if that makes sense.
All right. And then our next question coming up is from Goot by the looks of it here. And it's a little bit of a tougher one, but it's a valid one. So, as a community that's growing in terms of walking out and the lack of community trust based on Kong's past performance, what is your message to us tonight?
My message to us, so to everybody here, and I include you, the team, everybody, is that these are not easy times for anyone. You know, microeconomically, things are not good. Um, we all want to make a great game. Um, and we, on top of that, we also have some internal issues with the game that we need to fix. So all I can do, you know, humbly here is ask for patience while we fix this and try to keep you as close as we can, right? This is probably the commitment that we can make right now. Uh, so you help us, and together we navigate through this, right? I am not gonna lie, like at the end of the day, Congregate operates a business and it's a publicly traded company, part of the Modern Times Group. They have their own priorities, and sometimes it's difficult to get everyone happy here, you know, because the company obviously wants more money. You guys want more features, more content. We want as a team to deliver on that while also keeping our bosses happy. Um, I might get fired here, but it's definitely challenging. And yeah, the message is let's try to stick together, right? Because otherwise things won't work for anyone. This is a symbiotic relationship at the end of the day, right? Um, and I think everybody here loves the game. Everybody who's here today wouldn't be here if it's not because they love the game. So if you do, please stick with us, and we will try to do our best to be close to you as well.
Awesome. All right, so we're getting through these with a pretty solid amount of time. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab one from Dreamin' next, which is what happens to the questions a lot of people have that never seem to get answered like it currently is. So I would say the shorter version of that is basically um, what is our plan for addressing questions that don't currently have answers to them.
My suggestion there is maybe let's take them somewhere and answer them later. We can always make a write up and share that afterwards.
Awesome. All right. And then the next one after that is going to come from Sean. With the game alive for as long as it has been, there has been an accumulation of important bugs that should be fixed. Many, if not all of these, are already posted in the game issues BH section. Can you share with us any kind of bug fix plan?
Yeah, I share a back fix plan with you. That would like producers are typically the ones that are more in charge of the list. We just assign priorities to it. We can definitely work in terms of sharing more info there. I'll tell you though, many have been fixed over the last 6 months as part of the stability kind of effort that we've been going through. Don't have a list here out of my pocket right now, but we can maybe share the ones that we're working on a monthly basis or something like that. I would have to explore with the team if that's feasible and something that they're comfortable with, because also, as you know, we got to be careful with expectations here, right? Like, it is one thing to say we're working, trying to fix this thing, right? And we think we might have it ready or fixed in a week or two or three or four or whatever. And then actually getting that done, which is what creates a lot of times like frustration, understandably.
All right. And then our next question is going to be from Germ I'm just going to call you Jermo. Joshua. I think it's Jermoshua. Jermoshua. I'm not sure. On multiple occasions in the past, things have been rolled out that the community has immediately provided feedback about it being exploitable or doing things that are unintended. In each case, we were assured that it was part of the plan. Then, without communication, it's viewed as an emergency that must be changed immediately, and the players end up bearing the brunt of the damage instead of the people that made that decision. What controls are being put in place to ensure this doesn't happen again in the future?
It's a good question. I don't think it's been every single time. I think a lot of the times we listen and we make changes. Some other times we get together and we figure like, hey, even if it's gonna cost us pain, like tier two camping, like we have to change this before it becomes a much bigger problem, right? And we're gonna suffer, and it's entirely our fault for not having anticipated this, even though you guys have told us like, hey, like this is gonna become a problem. So it's impossible to make things right all the time. I'll tell you, if I was right 51% of the times, I'll be rich. I would just have to keep doing things. So in terms of the checks that we can put in place, again, it's what I've been talking about before. It's probably running things by some members earlier on, right? Keeping you close and listening more actively. Sometimes, again, like there's gonna be changes that no one in the community is gonna like. But we have to make them because otherwise, problems that just become bigger or more challenging, and then we can always find alternative solutions, but they might take more time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a balancing act at the end of the day.
All right, and then our next one is going to be from Anto. Bit Heroes is an idle game by nature. To a lot of people, it no longer feels like idle, but much rather like work, and it shouldn't feel like this. In terms of mental health, this would also help people with FOMO, etc. What are your thoughts about implementing auto rerun and let's say raids first to see how the change goes, as it's not a competitive content and will also help deal with the issue of some players having way too many raid baskets.
Hmm. That's a great point. As a player myself, as a product person, I do want that feature in. Now, I threw the idea at the engineers and they almost killed me because part of the memory leak issue is related to how fast the battles are going. Um, or they suspect. So right now, short term, it's not gonna change. Long term, for sure, again, it's definitely in the book. Another option definitely is to maybe explore allowing people to use more tickets at once, right? Which probably would help in terms of going through those resources faster. Um, so there's things we can do there to alleviate the pressure. And I agree with you. It's I love it here. Also, you have to take into account like I would wonder if we had like a ticket system, like some other games do. I wonder if the sense of community would be lost because it would be a lot easier to just jump in um, and just share the resources and get out. So there's a little bit of that also, but definitely I wanna do it and explore.
All right, and then our next question is from Wushak. Question: How often does the team go through the game ideas channel? Not all suggestions in there are easy, but there are quite a few low cost, high reward items that have already been vetted and had feedback provided.
Hmm. I personally go, if not on a weekly basis, every other week. I had to check what's there. I cannot speak for the rest of the team, but I know. I think Nico is close to Discord as well, and Orchi also takes a peek from time to time as well as Paul and Viper. Even though he's working on more things now, like he still takes a peek.
Alrighty, and then our next question is from Sean. Guild events are a great way to play. Some players really like to play with friends and sometimes even spend more to do so. Are there any plans to make uh, Are there any plans to making new guild events to sink our guild bucks bank into? I know there are multiple suggestions in Game Ideas BH, circling back to that last comment, or
Mhm.
perhaps a better slash updated guild shop.
The short answer is yes. And this is sorry, I'm the worst because I can understand like the beauty and the curse of Bit Heroes at the same time is like you could do so many things, right? Um, and everybody like we all have great ideas for it. So it's always like, okay, how can we turn this into something that is actionable in the short term? Like short term things like different guild thrones, right? It's something that's definitely on the table and should be relatively easy to add and do. Um, More items to buy there. Sure, we can explore that. Maybe even attach that to the seasonal content, right? So there are things that are time limited that pop up in there, so you can have a good use for guild packs. More perks, I don't think we'll add at this point. But it's not, if the perk is right, we could explore it. Anyway, sorry, it's so easy to ramble about these things. So to keep it focused, the answer is yes, we want to do more there.
Alrighty, and our next question is from Zerg. Question: When will we see much needed reworks to old familiars and equipments slash mythic and ancients to make them useful and more relevant to the current state of the game and bring people back to grinding out old content they may have rushed over? It would be cool to see more balance and diversity in teams and builds.
So I'm fairly sure the design team is working on some balancing changes towards the most popular builds right now, uh, for when the next zone comes over. Um, so hopefully that shakes things a little bit on its own, right? In terms of what are the builds that are going to come after that. In terms of how do we make all familiars useful, um, we have some ideas. Then again, priorities and one step at a time. I don't think that's something that will get worked on this year at all, to be very upfront about it, like the familiars part. The gear part, yes, we're looking into it right now.
All right, and then our next question is from Ducky. Can we work on localization of other languages?
Yes, we are going through a localization pass right now. So I cannot tell you like how soon is that gonna get out because we have typically the way that these things work is that you have a localization agency, they take a pass, we review it, then they have to get it in the code, they need builds, they need to QA those things themselves to make sure that everything's working as it's expected. So it's typically a lengthy process, but it's and we started it like recently. So it's not like around the corner, but it's being worked on.
All right, and our next one is from Dreamin, and I may actually be able to help answer this one. Why did the announcement stop mentioning special events weeks prior, like Sardonyx Raid Boost, Trials Boost, and Invasion Boosts? The only thing I've seen mentioned prior is double GVG and Miss Raid Boost a lot. So to give y'all Jorge, of course, jump in if there's anything you want to add to this, but I believe they're referring to the Discord announcements when we do updates on Thursday.
Hmm.
So for some insight there, we are given, the community team is given notes from production. Production is the wonderful group of humans who work, who are kind of behind the scenes to help make sure we ship features and things are all running properly. But that group is actually the one who hands us the updates and notes for patch notes and stuff. So what we we do is we go ahead, take those notes, post them up on Discord. It sounds like from this question, there is a desire for there to be more detail to those notes, which is something that Jorge and I can pass along to production to see if we can get those notes to be a little bit more fleshed out for y'all. Is there anything you want to add to that one, Jorge?
Nope, I'm always happy to share these things.
Awesome. And then we have one from Anto. Can we expect this AMA to be more frequent? And the suggested cadence here is once a week or twice a month. It would help to get community, it would help to get community feedback and keep up communication.
It's a good point. I was thinking maybe more once a month, so maybe doing it twice a month. You know, we can talk about it. One of the things that it's important to note as well is like there's something called the cost of opportunity, right? And this time is really important, don't get me wrong. But particularly for some of the devs, for example, like every hour that they put into some of these things is an hour that they put into something else, right? And a lot of them, they just, they have their 9 to 5s and they, and respectfully so, they like to kind of check out when they're done with the day, and it's I'll tell you, it's a stressful project to work on. It's not that easy. So, for example, today I'm probably the last one around, which is fine. Or like Juniper and I are still here. And depends on the time, depends on the meeting schedule, depends on their work. But we can definitely explore having it twice. I think once for sure is something that I'm happy to commit to.
Agreed. I think across the team, we're absolutely willing to hear feedback about ways we can try to help communication. So that's definitely something we'll go ahead and chew on and see if we can nail down a cadence that works for the community and also, takes into consideration the things that Jorge had mentioned. Our next question. Can we have more friend spots since having NFTs have proven it doesn't matter how many people are on your friends list. It's helpful to the new players and to the community.
Yeah. The question there is, in the first place, like why is there a limit, right? And potentially, I can tell you, it's also, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but the memory leak issue is also related a little bit to the amount of assets that are getting loaded in the game. So every friend that you have on your friend list come with its gear that gets loaded up when you join the game. Everybody who's in town at the same time as you in the server. So like, there's so many loading that happens that right now I don't want to throw that at the dev. I know they will kill me. So not for the moment, maybe in the future.
And then we have one from Clairvoyance. Currently in T20 PvP, 50% of the players are using Witchum. Do you think this situation is telling at all?
It is very telling. And yeah, I think those are some of the, the team's trying to get Witchum more balanced for the release of the next zone. So expect some changes to happen there when it arrives.
And then our next highest voted one is from When. Will there be a look into how true damage works? Because tanks can't even tank things without being one shot, no matter the build.
I believe that's being looked at as well. Again, for the next zone release. I know Nico and Paul are actively talking about this.
All right, and then the next question is going to be about offer walls. So, are there any plans to make offer walls outside of the US just as rewarding? What governs an offer wall, and how can we make sure that it's fair globally?
The problem with that is that we cannot. It's usually an external provider that we plug into the game, right? And they run things their own way. They have their own algorithms for determining the rewards. We just give them like what the base value is for a gem in the game. Basically, we tell them like, hey, 1 gem is 1 cent, right? And they will calculate everything on their own based on what a player is worth for them in a different country, right? Or which in this case, obviously, like that's why maybe US folks get better rewards in that sense, because that's what the person paying on the other end, right, is willing to pay for that offer. So unfortunately, it's outside of our control, and we cannot do anything about it. It's their own thing. The only thing we could do about it is disable it, which I think would be detrimental for everyone, and it's not something we want to do. Like to my, you know, from my point of view, and as bad as it sounds, some gems is better than no gems.
All right, our next question is going to be from Puff. For mobile and Android, any progress on solving the black screen crash slash not responding issue of the mobile app that happens a few moments after you perform a reconnect? It hurts a lot of world boss building.
So this is part of the memory leak issue. It's what is causing it, and the team is after it. And it's basically what I'm saying. Like the thing is that the game consumes more and more and more and more RAM until it gets to a point where it crashes or stops responding, right? Um, and they're looking into it. I know they have some ideas. I know they're testing them. It gets too technical at times for me to even understand it. So it's difficult for me to convey exactly what they're looking into. But yeah, it's being worked on, actively worked on.
And then the next question is going to be from Roasty. For future 1K custom cosmetics, can there be more communication? Feels like a long wait to see what was made. During the making of mine and Chaos, we had a poll for custom cosmetic mount that was completed in about 3 weeks, whereas some people have waited 4 months for level 1000 custom cosmetics. I do also have some insight that I can help offer for this one too, Jorge.
Yes, please go ahead.
So I do know that the game development team has recently met with the community management team, and the process for both submitting information for your 1K cosmetics and how that functionally we're moving to a setup where everyone is going to be submitting their information via a Google form. That Google form will be surfaced to you. When you're around like level 997-ish, for you to fill out. Everyone will be allowed. There's some new rules and policies about how this is going to go. Instead of this being something that has tons of back and forth with like individual one-on-one iterations, what we're instead going to be doing is offering, I'm not sure if you folks have ever gotten a tattoo before, but when you go and get something like that, you're usually entitled to maybe 1 or 2 revisions of your cosmetic item. So we are going to be streamlining communications around the process. Roasty, for you and Chaos in particular, you guys landed in the kind of unfortunate bucket of in the right in the middle as we are transitioning processes around these. But going forward, we hope that these changes will allow for significantly smoother and possibly, well, I don't want to speak for the devs and production schedules, but it should allow for much quicker delivery of things and also more just smoother communication about the process. But I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to that, Jorge.
No, I think that basically covers it, and I'm not super deep in that particular topic right now, so I don't think I can add more.
All right. And then our next question is going to be from Goot. Since we are going to rely on the roundtable as a primary means of communication, does an expansion of the roundtable that represents a larger portion of the community, including people that are intimate with the game as it currently stands, make sense? I know term limits have been brought up as well. I can
It's
touch on
great.
this if you want to
Yeah.
go ahead first though.
I was gonna say I have heard some of these ideas. I'm very open to them. That being said, Juniper is the one that carries the workload here, and and also obviously the community. But Juniper is kind of the organizer. So,
So let me
without
touch.
any shame, I'm gonna give this to them.
All right. So, as far as roundtable membership goes, for the folks that are in the audience, what we do is approximately every 6 months or so, we take a look at membership. We see how many folks we have, the amount of like activities we have for them to do, things that they can chime in on. If we feel we have a holistic representation of the community, and we go from there. Sometimes that means adding folks, sometimes that means the opposite. Now, that being said, we haven't actually removed folks from the roundtable for lack of need yet. So, what we've actually done is within the past couple of months, we had a pretty significant, I want to say we added like I believe 10-ish new members to the roundtable, from folks that are from a little bit broader of a background than our first group that was brought on. Our first group that was brought on was very intentionally focused on former council members, house elders, and folks like moderators, people who had a excellent track record in the community, could be trusted to abide by their NDAs, and that we believed would be excellent candidates for the program. We've just brought in another group of people. They have been an incredibly amazing addition. What we don't want to do is unnecessarily add too many people just because. So we will always, I think we're coming up on, oh goodness, I think we're coming up on the time soon here to take a peek and see if we need more folks. But I do want to call out that an important part of being in the roundtable has to do with your um, kind of the way you engage with the community. If you have a history of getting into tangles with mods, or maybe you haven't behaved super great, or things like that are actually going to exclude you from the program for a lot of reasons we can talk about maybe in another AMA. But for folks that are deeply engaged, they understand Bid Heroes Quest. They are maybe their guild leaders, maybe they're leaders in our community, or simply just wonderful human beings that we feel have something to add to the program. Like I said, every 6 months or so, we will absolutely consider adding more folks. I personally have shot down, and this is me kind of pulling like CM rank on folks. I do not have any desire to implement term limits. I'll be fully transparent with folks. I don't think it really helps too much. As long as folks are playing the game and are doing a great job contributing to the program and abiding by their NDAs, there's no real reason to kick them out of the program. While it would technically fill up, open a space, that's not really how it works. It's not like we have a finite number of spots. It's more, do we feel we have the right people and the right number of people to accomplish our goals with the program? So, no to the term limits. That's not something that I'm interested in, because I think honestly, it's not a great thank you to the folks who put kind of blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes into trying to make the game a good place for the community. Of course, sometimes folks aren't a fit, and they may be asked to no longer be part of the program, but for the most part we want to retain folks who are contributing meaningfully in that way. But yeah, we will, if you feel like there is a need to add more voices, or you have nominations, you are always welcome to either message me. You can message any of the community managers. You can even reach out to a roundtable member with your nominations. We do touch base with them to when we're considering new folks, to see if we think people might be a good fit or not. So if you want to throw your hat in the ring in that way, feel free to reach out. But yeah, so it's a program that will grow as needed, but no to the term limits. So sorry for rambling a bit on that one. Let me go ahead and grab the next one. Give me one sec while I find what our next question is going to be. All right. Armory. So moving over to the Armory. Armory costs per slot, this one is from Gilgamesh. Armory costs per slot is too costly for such low ROI. Please consider reducing the cost of each slot by a flat value. Make it in total cost perhaps $50 USD worth of gems to unlock all of the Armory slots, or make each slot increased gold to provide a true gold sink, even if a temporary one, once all slots are unlocked. And I think the question here might be, are we willing or open to making some adjustments to the armory?
So I would need to kind of dig into the design documents that Ken and Lautaro did put together for that back in the day. I'm not close to it. If I believe it, if I recall it correctly, I think it was basically to provide players like a long-term kind of gem sink, as they progress through the game. I know there's issues with gold in terms of like finding use to it, so maybe we could replace one for the other just to give it some purpose, or at least a few of the slots could be more gold based. Let me take that one to a team before I we continue this. But yeah, I'm open to it.
And then our next question is going to be from Puff. Would you consider adding more gems to the milestone rewards for invasion? This will make it feel more rewarding and encourage players to run higher difficulty slash waves and fill up the community points bar more slash faster, and everybody can enjoy its benefits.
Definitely something we can explore as well. I'm sorry again, broken record. It's priorities right now. It's fixes and the next zone delivery. And that is like fixes to stability and the next zone delivery, right? And that is probably the next. Well, we find it quickly, feature development might come faster, and then to be honest, the first thing that I do want the team to work on after that is probably the battle pass. The stability, then battle pass, while we keep developing Zone 20, that will probably cover the next 3 to 4 or 5 months. And then after that, we can definitely, like, it's a different world. Once we go through this stability problem, a lot of doors open again. This is my personal roadmap for the game. Obviously, Paul and Vienna and Orchi are kind of like Paul takes more care of the features, Orchi takes more care of the content. So we'll need to agree on that. But this is the way I see things. And it's not like Jorge makes all the decisions here, by the way, in case somebody thought it was like that.
No, definitely not. There's so many voices on the team, which is a wonderful thing. All right, our next question is going to be from Charred Lungs. Question: Are NFTs here to stay and work out the bumps, or are they going to be removed? Or and then there's a comment here about, or maybe add a limit on the number of NFTs you can own.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I want to begin this topic in particular by saying that I really appreciate and I'm very thankful for those players who have jumped and bought an NFT, right? And I know some of them even kind of encourage more people to jump over, and some did. And then people got disappointed because of the tier 2 changes, and that is perfectly legit. I don't think it's on the players though. That's definitely on us as a development team, right? So please treat those people with respect, because honestly, it takes a lot of courage to do what they do. So I'm very thankful for them. The NFTs are here to stay, and I'll tell you, even some of them told me that that if we needed to remove NFTs from the game, that we should do it. But that is not how I see things. I still believe in the vision of certain players that want to own their progress, getting these NFTs, right? And then being able to do with it whatever they want. I still believe in us delivering on several perks from the list that we shared, right? And that those perks will be interesting for everybody. And I think it added a layer of control over having several characters in your same account that we didn't have before, right? Like before you had your hero, that was it. If you wanted to have more heroes, you needed to create more accounts. Now you can, within one account, host multiple heroes. So from that point of view, I think NFTs add a lot of value, and they're not going anywhere. We'll work through the bumps and get there. Obviously, maybe not at 100% as we wanted, but definitely they're not going away.
Alrighty, and then our next question is going to be from Billy.
Hold on.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Juniper. Somebody, Dakiwaki, said if we're gonna make them more valuable. Not necessarily more valuable. The answer here is we're gonna make them. We're gonna continue to chase the perks that we promised, right? Again, maybe not all of them, and the timeline, and the time horizon, like really needs to be taken into account here. It's not like we're gonna deliver all of that in 6 months. I think more the 24 to 36 month time period to get everything done, and probably we'll cut a thing or two from that list.
Alrighty, so question is going to be from Billy, and the question
I'm,
is, would you
I'm so sorry,
consider?
Juniper.
Oh,
I'm the worst.
okay.
So there's a question from How to Solve Savage. So to iterate, is it acceptable to spend once and never spend again? And that is what the NFTs are. That's not what they are. Think if you wanna, we just got a question about the armory and the armory slots, right? Think of this basically as character slots, right? That is right now how they're operating, with the difference that that progress is stored with them and can be transferred. That is how it is today. And then definitely there's some other perks around, like the permanent permagore, et cetera, et cetera. But those are, at the end of the day, perks that go with making like such a big purchase, right? Like if you're putting $200 into one of these, you should get something as well in return for it. So yeah, just want to make sure that that statement is not really like accurate of what they are.
Okay, cool. We're going to try to sneak Billy's question in real quick before people can ask more questions. Would you consider removing the legendary material reforge cost on ancient reforges? We have many ancients now, and we're using a lot of legendary materials per tier now. Would love to be able to experiment more.
Any feedback, suggestions, please keep coming that over. As mentioned, we're looking into crafting costs for the next zone release for different things. So, things can change there. It's open.
All right, and then I am just going ahead and trying to zoom through to see if we have any like really upvoted ones in our last couple minutes. Um, okay, you know what we're gonna do since we only have about a minute left, so we're actually gonna wrap it up there. But you guys are welcome to continue asking questions in this channel. The chat persists. And what Coffee and I will do is we'll gather up those questions and see what we can do about getting an answer to those, or bare minimum, bringing them to the next AMA that we have. Because as we've talked, we would like to do a few more of these. So we just feel free to go ahead, drop them in here. I know everyone probably has a ton of questions. That is okay. We love it. And we'll circle back again. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to put together such thoughtful questions, for taking the time to be here, for being willing to listen to us and conversate with us. I know it's been a little bit rocky, but as always, y'all have really this community never ceases to amaze me with how awesome you guys can be, so thank you. for just the general vibes brought to the session today. And hopefully, we were able to provide some insight. And of course, as Jorge mentioned, all the things we touched on, we will continue doing all we can to improve in the ways that were mentioned. But um, again,
Mhm.
thank you all. Hope you have an amazing weekend. Jorge, thank you for sitting down with us. And we will be back soon. Jorge, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to say before we
Yeah,
sign off.
very quickly, this is a very special community. You guys know it is for me as well. It's where I've dedicated a lot of time to congregate. Um, and even though like I'm right now I'm working across the organization. I'm not just working on Big Heroes. To be clear, I this is the only place where I come to talk with players. Yeah, so that is very clear. It is challenging, I'll tell you that. It's a wonderful community. It comes with its challenges. It's a wonderful game. It comes with its challenges. Just want to reiterate the message, right? Like I do want to keep you closer. I want to be very honest with you. Uh, we are going through this kind of desert right now. Again, macroeconomic conditions plus status of the game right now and resources. It's really not helping us to push as much as we wanted. But the game team really like this week, they were overworking all week long to try to deliver the event that just came out to you guys because we wanted to do something special. And as hard as it be, please stick with us. Have us a little patience. I know it's hard. We all want to see things change and get better. Um, I'm hopeful in us getting there, right? And in terms of what's coming up, in terms of roadmap, uh, again, fixing the stability problems, then potentially the battle pass or something else. Um, we still want to deliver the bet on the amount for NFT holders while that happens, as soon as we can after stability. And then on the content side, besides the regular seasonal events that are around the corner, you also will have this new zone. I think it's in the next quarter, I believe. I might be missing by a month or two, but it's happening this year for sure. That's it. Thank you very much for having me here and not insulting me too much. And yeah, take care. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate y'all. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll touch base with y'all soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.